The twin suns were setting over the silver towers of Velanthari, when the imperial courtyard filled with whispers of disbelief. The royal guards stood, frozen, their spears trembling in their hands as a single ship descended from the crimson sky. Its design was foreign, smooth and round, unlike the sharp crystal ships of the Empire. The moment it landed, every noble eye turned toward the ramp, expecting danger, perhaps invasion. Instead, a familiar figure stepped out, tall, graceful, with silver hair that shimmered under the twin light. Princess Kaelis, the lost daughter of the Velanthari Empire. She had vanished 10 cycles ago during the border wars, presumed dead. The Empress herself rose from her throne, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Kaelis, my child," she whispered, barely daring to believe. But Kaelis was not alone. 2 small figures emerged beside her, running ahead, their laughter echoing through the marble courtyard. They were small, pale-skinned, and their hair dark as night. The nobles gasped. Humans, the impossible. Word spread like fire through the gathering. Humans on Velanthari was a sin, a myth, and yet here they were, holding the princess' hands with innocent smiles. Kaelis knelt before her mother, lowering her head. "In respect, mother," she said softly, "I have returned." The Empress stepped forward, her heart torn between joy and confusion. She touched her daughter's face as if to confirm she was real. "Where have you been, child, and who are these beings?" Kaelis smiled, her eyes glistening with pride and fear. "They are my children." The courtyard erupted in outrage. Nobles shouted, guards raised weapons, and advisors rushed to the Empress' ear. "Humans cannot be royal," one cried. Another demanded their capture. But the Empress raised her hand and silence fell. She looked again at the 2 small children who now hid behind their mother's legs. The boy clutched a small metal sphere, a toy perhaps, and the girl stared up with curious eyes. There was something about them, something gentle and bright. Kaelis spoke again. "I lived among them, mother, among humans. They saved me when my ship crashed. They taught me kindness, courage, and love. And from that life came these 2, my family." The Empress closed, her eyes torn between duty and the love of a mother. The air shimmered with tension as the guards awaited her command. Finally, she spoke, her voice steady. "Bring them inside." As the great doors closed behind them, whispers spread across the Empire. The lost princess had returned, and with her came the future no one was ready for.
The next morning, the Grand Council gathered inside the crystal hall. The air shimmered with energy as noble scholars and generals filled the seats. Each one whispered the same words: "The princess has returned with humans." The Empress sat upon her silver throne, her expression unreadable. Beside her stood Kaelis, holding the hands of her 2 children. The young ones looked around, wide-eyed, unafraid of the stares that could cut through steel. The High Chancellor rose first, his voice sharp as a blade. "Your Majesty, our laws are clear. No outsider blood may enter the royal line. These creatures must be sent away." Kaelis stiffened at his words. Her voice rose strong and calm. "You call them creatures, but they are children, my children. They carry both my blood and the honor of the Velanthari name." The council murmured in outrage and disbelief. The Empress lifted her hand for silence. Her gaze moved from her daughter to the small boy and girl. The boy looked up and said softly, "Are you our grandmother?" The words froze the hall. No translator, no machine. The child spoke the Velanthari tongue fluently. "Impossible," gasped a scholar. "They have learned our language." Kaelis smiled. "They are more than you. Believe, mother, they learn. They build, they love. Humans are not what our tales say." The Empress remained silent as the nobles argued. Some called for exile, others for testing. One general even suggested removing the children to study their DNA. The Empress slammed her staff on the floor. "Enough." Her voice echoed across the hall. "The princess is my blood, and so are these children. Until I say otherwise, they will remain under royal protection." The council fell silent. No one dared defy her. Later that night, Kaelis sat by the crystal window with her children, watching the glowing moons. The boy asked, "Will they ever like us?" Mother Kaelis hugged them both tightly. "They will try," she whispered. "Or they will fail, but we will not hide any more." Outside, unseen in the shadows, the High Chancellor spoke to a cloaked figure. "If the Empress will not act," he hissed, "then the purity of our race must be preserved." The figure nodded in silence, slipping away like smoke.
Inside the palace, the Empress stood alone, gazing at the stars. A storm was coming. She could feel it in her bones, and at its heart stood her daughter and the two small children who had already begun to change everything. The dawn of the next cycle broke with fire in the sky. The palace alarms rang as ships of the Imperial Guard surrounded the courtyard. Kaelis woke to the sound of marching boots and the frightened cries of her children. She rushed to the balcony and saw the banners of the High Chancellor fluttering in the wind. "Mother," she whispered, "they have come for us." The Empress was already in the throne hall, surrounded by her loyal guards. The Chancellor entered, his armor gleaming, his eyes cold. "Your Majesty," he said, "with mock respect you protect abominations. The Council has decided the human offspring must be taken away for the safety of the Empire." Kaelis burst into the hall, her voice shaking but strong. "They are innocent," she cried. "I will not let you touch them." The guards raised their weapons but hesitated when the Empress stood. Her gaze burned with fury. "You dare defy me in my own court, Chancellor?" He smirked. "The Empire must be pure. Even you cannot stop evolution of corruption." He raised his hand to signal attack, but the Empress moved faster. A wave of blinding light filled the hall. Her staff struck the floor and energy rippled through the marble walls. The guards froze, unable to move. "You forget the first law of Velanthari," the Empress said coldly, "family above all." Kaelis ran to her mother as the two children clung to her legs. The Empress looked down at them for the first time without fear. The girl stepped forward, holding a small, glowing stone. She had been playing with it, shimmered and floated in the air. The nobles gasped. "This is not human technology," someone whispered. Kaelis smiled. "They are both human and Velanthari. They are the bridge between worlds, not the end of one." The Empress took a long breath and raised her voice so all could hear. "From this day forth, the blood of humans and Velanthari shall be one. These children are the heirs to the new dawn. The future will not be built on fear, but on unity." The Chancellor tried to speak, but the Empress pointed her staff toward him. "Guards, take him away." His rebellion ended in silence. Later that night, the Empress sat in the garden with her grandchildren. The boy looked up and asked softly, "Are you really our grandmother?" She smiled and held him close. "Yes, child, I am, and you are the hope of two worlds." Above them, the twin moons shone brighter than ever as peace began to bloom in the heart of the Empire.